Welcome to the latest episode of the Hull and Back podcast. It is just myself, Joe Appleyard, and Norgraves today. And it's really good to speak to you, buddy. I haven't been on for a few weeks. I've been on my stag do. I'm finally recovering from Prague, so it's nice to be back on. Just me and you today, buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's just us. I'm not bad, thank you. You? Did you enjoy your stag do?
I did. I mean, I won't say any of the stories on here because I'm sure my missus won't be happy if she hears what I went on over there. But yeah, brilliant. Really good place. Really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it to anyone, especially if you're on a stag do. But unfortunately, the past 2 weeks, apart from the Peterborough game, I'm back on a bit of a sour note, which we're going to speak about soon. But of course, guys, we are sponsored by Candy King and 6 Yards Out. They are all on our link tree on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can check out our sponsors. Remember, our podcast charity shirt is designed by S66 Sportswear. You can follow them on Twitter as well, and we are in collaboration with Andy Mann's Club. We are going to speak about our shirts a little bit later on, so we'll leave that until the end of the podcast. So, Ant, we'll jump straight into it. Obviously, we're speaking about the 2-0 defeat to Bruce's Baggies, as our title is rightly so. I mean, City's consistently inconsistent. We spoke about that before we came on air. For me, it's just the manner of sometimes how we're getting defeated, especially at home. You kind of, if you're watching it on the iFollow, you're at the MKM, you know, if we concede early doors and we haven't got the possession in the first opening quarter, you know, it's probably going to be a long afternoon for Shota Arveladze's Tigers and not at the races again. And it's just frustrating. I know Peterborough aren't the best team, but you see the highlights. Obviously, I was in Prague. I didn't go to Peterborough, but really good, really positive. I know you're playing a bit of a poorer side, but you've got to kick on in this league like we speak about so much. And just you can't afford, against a team like West Brom, I know the struggle. I know they haven't won since January the 22nd, I think, but writing on the wall, obviously, Brooksy coming back to the KC for the first time. Just a very poor game again from the Tigers.
It was, and I think the most frustrating thing about it is like you say, they were in such poor form that the way we set up, more or less to kind of play for a draw in a sense, was confusing because, you know, I think if you add in, I think a lot of the frustrations come from the fact that when Shota was first hired, there was the quote that was, "I'd rather lose 4-3 than draw 0-0." Whereas in the time that we've had Shota, we've not really seen that approach to games. The Swansea game, the first half of the Swansea game was very good, but he'd only been here 2 days, so it's kind of like probably a follow-on from the form under McCann kind of thing. It was the same system, same formation, same players, and he probably didn't change much. So, but from that point, we've kind of just tried to grind out games and try and win like a single point here and there. I mean, you know, away at Sheffield United and QPR, fair enough. You know, you're going to be under the cosh quite a bit. The good sides in the top 6, but when you're at home against a side that's not won in like 13 games or something, you don't want to be seeing your team set up negatively. You want to see them have a go. And I think West Brom were there for the taking. And especially at home, when you've played 4 in a row at the MKM and not scored in those 4 games, losing them as well, obviously. It's when you try to encourage fans to come back to attend home matches, it's not good watching, is it? You want to, we've got a lot of attack. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter saying that we don't have the quality attacking wise to be playing that way, but I disagree because I think you look back at the good run we had under McCann, where you know, we were beating teams like Blackburn and Bournemouth. You know, Keane Lewis Potter, Ryan Longman on their day are absolute nightmares for defenders. Tom Eaves is in a front two. I think you can't do a lone striker in my opinion, but as part of like a front two, Tom Eaves and his hold up ability can also be an absolute pain for defenders, and he can bring other players into the game. And we just don't seem to be playing to our strengths at the minute, and I think that's why there's such frustration because, you know, we know what we can do, but we're not seeing it.
No, I mean, the teams lined up, we'll start with the Baggies. West Brom lined up 3-5-2. It was Sam Johnson in goal, the back three of Clark, Bartley and Ajayi. Connor Townsend, obviously former Tiger, with Alex Mowat, Jake Livermore, and Gardner Hickman and Fairlong in midfield. And up front, we had Carlon Grant, who scored the double, and Callum Robinson. The Tigers lined up with a 3-4-2-1 setup. It was unchanged from Peterborough. Ingram in goal, Alfie Jones, McLaughlin and Greaves. Regan Slater, Richie Smallwood, Greg Doherty, Brandon Fleming, George Honeyman, KLP and Tyler Smith up front. And I mean, there's been a lot of points about the game. Obviously, we've got a lot of keyboard warriors. Every club does, and sometimes we've been guilty of doing it as well. Emotions get the best of us. But with that back three, with Clark, Bartley and Ajayi, 3 big centre-backs, was Tyler Smith, who's used to just darting through, more of a not a target man as such. Like you mentioned there with the two up front with Tom Eaves, I think as much as I've been his critic and I've stated that on the podcast, it'd have been a perfect game for him to come up against them, a bit like what they've got off the bench with Andy Carroll, a bit of a target man, just bomb it up front. But the way the Tigers are playing at the minute, it's pretty hopeless when we get to McLaughlin, Greaves or Alfie Jones just booting it up top. Tyler Smith is not going to win against these three established centre-backs, especially Bartley and Clark, who have played over 60, 70 games in the top flight combined. It just, for me, the setup was all wrong from the start, and you're playing, Regan Slater as a wing back as well. It's just West Brom are a really steady side, and doing stuff like that just shows maybe Arveladze is a bit of an experience in this division, and it's starting to show sometimes. I'm not saying he's not the answer, and it's very early days in this City regime under Adrian Illicar, but I think he got a few things wrong, and he needs to put his hand up there.
I mean, on the last, it's hard because you can kind of understand why the team was unchanged, because we're just beating Peterborough 3-0. So, like, in terms of changing the lineup, if we'd have seen, 3 or 4 changes to that starting lineup, you'd think, what the hell's he doing? You don't change your winning team. We always used to say that to McCann when he used to switch it up all the time. But if you're not going to switch it up, then you have to play to the strengths of the players that you've got on the pitch. And I really don't think that the three at the back is definitely the best system for this squad. But the way that Arveladze does it doesn't get the best out of our main players, because he plays Honeyman just sort of behind the striker, but more wide. And we don't see his influence as much. And if we know from watching every game this season and majority of last season, if Honeyman is either having a bad game or doesn't play, then we don't create chances and we don't win games. He is absolutely key to all the attacking that we do. So isolating him in a more wide position, to me, is just already sacrificing your main attacking outlet, which means that we don't get that link up from defence to midfield to attack to do the build-up play that we want to do, which then leaves us to, passing it around the back three and then lumping it long. And like we say, Tyler Smith up front's not going to win them balls. He's not going to hold it up. He's going to want to get in behind, because that's the kind of striker he is. So we're already setting ourselves up to fail by, inadvertently getting rid of your own. We've done West Brom a favour by putting Honeyman out the game, because you don't see the best out of him like you do in the middle. And it's tough, innit? Because like we say, we beat Peterborough 3-0 with that team. So he had every right to believe in the players that he had on the pitch in the system. But, when you compare the likes of Peterborough and then West Brom, and, Regan Slater did okay against Peterborough in the wing-back position, but against West Brom, he was, I don't think I saw him go over the halfway line, which isn't his fault. West Brom sort of kept us penned in for especially the vast majority of the first half. But it's just, we've got variation and we've got a lot of players that can play in these positions, and we just don't seem to be able to crack sort of like our strongest 11. I know injuries have had a big part to play recently. We've probably not seen our strongest 11, but it's just all the constant tinkering, innit? I mean, we always have a different 11, players playing in different positions everywhere. And I think if you asked, say you got a group of 100 City fans and asked them to write down what they would consider our strongest 11 and give them free formation and everything, every single one would probably be different. And that's the problem that I think Arveladze's got.
Yeah, definitely. And like we've already mentioned, it's early doors. He's finding his best team. He's finding his system. He's with a new coaching staff, a new language. You've got to take that into appreciation, aren't you? But I think the main thing for City at the minute is they're not starting as if they're confident. The biggest issue for me before Grant's goal, which was a brilliant low ball from Alex Mowatt, is the way we can't string 2 or 3 passes together. I like the way we try and play out the back sometimes, especially with Greaves and McLaughlin, but they'll probably admit, especially Jacob Greaves, didn't have his best game in black and amber that he'll probably ever had. But you've just got to be a bit more direct on the ball. I think we're a bit, I wouldn't say lazy, because I don't think that's the right word, but sometimes just a bit lethargic, and it takes maybe a missed opportunity or a bit of a half chance for West Brom for us to get into the game. And you can't afford to do that against a side like that, because you look at, they nearly scored after a few minutes. Connor Townsend, former City player, was playing obviously opposite Regan Slater in the wing-back role. I thought he had a really good game against his former side, but he had a few chances. And if City weren't careful, it could have been 2 or 3 after 15, 20 minutes. And again, you've just got to start a little bit stronger, because at this moment in time, we're still 13 points above the drop zone. But in this Championship division, you can see that can change pretty rapidly. And we've just got to be a little bit more clinical from the off as soon as that starting whistle goes. And that's what I think we're lacking at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's that you can see the style of player that we're trying to play, and you could see it also under McCann as well. Like, there's a clear aim as to what he wants the squad to do and what he's asking the players to do. it's just like you say that the actual execution of it doesn't seem to click. And I don't know whether that is because of the rotation of the squad and different players and partnerships being sort of, in the air from that, constantly playing next to somebody different each week. But we're not quick enough to get the ball from the back three into the middle and then up the top. We're too happy to put it into the midfield and then give it straight back to the defenders. And that's what the opposition want you to do. If you're going to try and play out from the back, they're going to press you high to force you to do that. They don't want you. They want you to hit it long because they know that's what you don't want them to do. So it's, we're playing into the opposition's hands essentially every single time. And it's the most common tweet you'll see from City fans during or after a game where we're sick of seeing us lump the ball up top to just give them the ball straight back. Like you want to see us have possession, but meaningful possession, not across the back three where we're eventually going to lump it long. We need to be able to link up and play triangles through the middle and get the wide play. I think probably saying that I think the wide players in like Keane Lewis Potter or Honeyman, whoever he plays out the right hand side, need to come deeper. I think we leave them up front and sort of give them a freedom to stay up there a bit, and then that probably leads to the midfielders being outrun and marked out the game, and then that leads us to hitting it long. So when you look at the better teams that play this short, snappy football, all the players come deep and then they attack as a unit. And I don't think we do that. And it'll probably take quite a bit of discipline to get them to do that. And whether or not Shota gets the players necessary to do that in summer is obviously we have to wait and see. But there is a clear disjointed sort of cohesion amongst the team where we can't get the ball from A to B properly. So we just get rid of it and it don't work for us.
Yeah, I'm just reading a few of the tweets. Obviously, you put it on earlier on our To Hull and Back page about how's everybody rating Shota's start. A lot of people are just saying the same things as us. It's very hit and miss. Sometimes it's brilliant. Sometimes it looks diabolical. Some people aren't still sure. They agree that it's probably not his team at this moment in time, even though we have signed 4 or 5 players before the January transfer window shut. But I think the main hope for me at this moment in time is, let's be honest, like I've always said, when I first started coming on this podcast, as bad as the results are at the minute, and yeah, sometimes it's a bit hit and miss, if we can grind it out, we've got, what, is it 10 games left? Is it 10 games? Is it? Yeah. So we've got about 10 or so games left. We're 13 points above relegation zone. You'd really presume that the Tigers are still going to be in the Championship. I'm kind of giving Shota Arveladze the benefit of the doubt to wait until we get to the summer window. Tank Kesler, Asian Ilakai, Van der Veen, and obviously the manager Shota Arveladze, they can build around this side. They're saying they're going to spend big. They're saying they want the attacking threat. I know he wants to play a style of play, but at this moment in time, when he comes and promises that he's going to do these things about playing attacking, changing the style of play, and it stays very similar, it is very easy to go and slag a coach off. It's easy for me and you to do it on the podcast. It's easy to type it on Twitter. You can do it within a second. That seems to be a problem on social media. But what a really disappointing thing for me is just how drab the atmosphere has been as well. And I know you made the argument that it's the performances on the pitch, but you go back to that Swansea game. I mean, I had tears in my eyes when everyone was bouncing, everyone singing "Stand Up If You're All Say." It seemed like, God, the people are going to come back, and that's going to take time as well. Rome wasn't built in a day, like I mentioned the other week, and it's going to take time, fans, for coming back, obviously, until the memberships go down a little bit more at the end of this season. But for me, I'd just like to see the atmosphere and a bit more entertainment off the pitch at the moment. I think the change is done now. The takeover's done, but the honeymoon period certainly seems to be over. And I think we've got to generate a bit more atmosphere off the pitch as well, because if we concede that early goal, yeah, it was poor, yeah, it was bad, but it turns into a bit of a library at the MKM at the moment. And I think that doesn't help as well.
Yeah, I mean, players always say they respond to, the enthusiasm from the fans and the atmosphere and that. So if the atmosphere is flat, then, it's more than likely that the performance will be flat. But you've also got to look at it from a fan's perspective. These people, the cost of living's going up at the minute. Inflation's going up. People are worrying about, how much they're going to end up spending on their energy bills and things like that. We mentioned this to Baz on the last episode about how difficult it's going to be to encourage fans to actually come back long term next season. But, if people are going to spend the money to sit in the stadium freezing, and you're supposed to obviously support your team through thick and thin. You should be at the stadium chanting as much as you do. But we all know if you're there in the MK when it's absolutely freezing and City are putting in one of the most drab first half performances you'll ever see, it's tough to get that atmosphere going, and it's understandably so. You respond to the effort of the players, and if the effort of the players isn't up to scratch, then the fans think, well, what's the point? And it's fickle saying it, it's daft saying that, and I feel bad saying that, but obviously it's true, and we will never escape that. But yeah, I mean, I think it probably wouldn't have been as bad if we were actually playing with this attacking intent that they first said they'd come in. I think maybe a few fans feel a bit betrayed because they're like, maybe a few would have liked to have seen Grant keep the job till the end of the season, and we've instead gambled on this new manager who's promised us, entertainment because that's what the fans want to see, kind of thing. And then we've essentially not changed really. If anything, I think I mentioned it on a tweet myself to somebody earlier. We've gone sideways, not forwards. We've literally just, we're doing the same thing, but with a different name at the top. And it's people were hoping that obviously the new era, the new takeover, everything, that this was going to be the start of better days. When in reality, the results are no better at all. And the realistic nature of the table is, yes, we're very, very clear. But if you take them points deductions out of Reading and Derby, we're right in the mix for relegation. So, we've not had a great season by any stretch, and we've been saved kind of, by the financial mismanagement of other teams. And we've kind of got away from it and got away with it, sorry. And I think summer will be a huge opportunity to really kick on, because I think next season, with the money that they're promising to spend, if we do manage to get some top quality players in and actually have a mid-table / playoff push next season, we will see improved atmosphere. And I imagine that the ticket prices will go down quite substantially, because I believe Adjin when he says he wants the fans back, that seems to be their prime aim, is that they are well aware that the attendance is falling is a big issue, and they want fans back. They need fans back, don't they, for the team? So we'll see in summer, and hopefully next season will be better. We're kind of just limping over the line this season, aren't we? Yeah. That's the worry. It's sort of a damp squid for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think mentioning on the attacking threat, the last 15 minutes of the first half especially, I thought we played some really tardy bit of football. I think that move when KLP should have scored, and then when Greaves passed it to Fleming to KLP, which would have been a trio of Hull lads setting up a brilliant goal. Tyler Smith probably should have scored as well. We've mentioned, Lewis Potter should have scored as well. And that's the thing. You take them chances before half-time, it can be a totally different ball game going into the second period. But City just started probably as the set-off in the first half with a very poor, probably a lazy one. Greaves guilty of a very lazy tackle. He did get beaten by his man. He tackled down Gardner Hickman, who I thought was really dangerous on the day. When they've got a double-barrelled name, they stand out a lot more. But I thought he was really good in the centre of the field. And probably when you concede a penalty after 48 minutes, after being on top for the past 15 of the first half, that was probably the game realistically. And after that, even with the changes, Saïd Manesh coming on, Eves, Longman, the game kind of went away, didn't it, after that penalty kick?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I went on holiday recently with my family, and I was talking to my uncles about City at the minute, because we were watching the QPR game on the telly. And the problem with City is this season, if we go 1-0 up, you quite fancy us to actually hold on to that lead and win. But if we go 1-0 down, you can't see us bringing it back.
No.
And I think that is probably the biggest problem that we've had. Our Achilles heel this season is finishing chances. We are so wasteful when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net. If we're going to be a side that doesn't create as many chances per game as other teams, then you have to make sure that the chances you do get, you take advantage of. And I think there's an over-reliance on KLP, because the vast majority of chances fall to him. Obviously, he's our top scorer, but when he's going to have the most opportunities, he's also going to miss the most shots. And I think, when you play him in a formation that isolates a player like Tyler Smith, whose strength is, feeding off somebody else, getting in behind and asking questions that way, stretching defenses. When he's by himself, he can't do that. And like you say, towards the end of the first half, we were putting some dangerous balls into the box. He likes to do like a near post dart, like he did against Peterborough. That's his style when he's in the box. But then when we were putting decent balls in the second half, that would have been perfect for Tyler Smith, he wasn't on the pitch. So it's, as a striker, he must be incredibly frustrated. But to me, he needs whoever plays alongside Eves it just means that Eves has to start for me. If we're going to play the way that we're currently playing, Eves has to be on the pitch alongside Force, Syed Manesh, Smith, whoever ends up starting, because we can't hold it. Force has shown, I think, in my opinion, anyways, that he can't hold the ball up as a lone striker. That's not his style. He needs somebody to feed off. Smith is the same, and then Syed Manesh, I think, can pretty much play anywhere along the front three. So we've not seen enough of him to judge. But Eves, I think, is crucial to this team. Since January, like he won Player of the Month for us. He's been absolutely crucial in bringing other players, giving the wing backs the freedom to attack because he comes deeper and holds the ball up and brings them into the game. He's absolutely crucial. And if we're going to keep putting these balls into the box, he's perfect to be there, the aerial threat. But he's not on the pitch, obviously. Like you say, when we made the changes, which in my opinion were too late again, which is another criticism for me for Shota. I think he waits too long to change the game. There's been at least 2 or 3 times where we've been very poor in the first half and half-time changes were needed. And we've come out and played the exact same, not changed the system, not changed any personnel. And we sort of tried to just sort of grind our way back into it. And then the game's already gone. We're leaving ourselves with too much to do and too little time. So, like you say, inexperience of the English league, possibly. He will be learning every game. He's probably come into a very good situation with Derby and Reading's points deductions because it's given him a bit of breathing room to actually learn properly. Because, there's always a possibility that he's just trying different things to find out what our best strengths are ready for next season. But at the moment, like you say, as a fan, it's a bit tedious to watch, You don't want to see that every week, but here we are.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I mean, Tom Eaves is, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he's seen it all at Hull City. He's very much Marmite. I mean, some weeks I absolutely love him. Some weeks I think, how is he a football player? But you know what? You've got to look and think. My dad rarely goes to games, and he came to the Preston game with me a few weeks back, and he's never seen Tom Eaves play for City live. And he went, God, you don't realise how much work he puts in as well. His press. You don't realise how much he presses the defenders, and his contract runs out in a few months at the end of this season. I mean, you've got to look at it from a realistic point. If the owners are going to spend big on the attackers, if they're looking at maybe signing Syed Manesh, there's been talks, haven't they, about Syed Manesh, Baxter, Deshaun Bernard, obviously all signing permanently in the summer. But for me, you're looking at probably effectiveness. It depends on cost as well. But there'll be an argument to maybe keep Eaves on another year. It depends on it all depends on the style of play Shota Arveladze wants to play. And at this moment in time, like you said, Anne, I agree. I think City look a lot better side up front when he's on, but definitely not when he's a lone striker. You need either Force, Syed Manesh, Tyler Smith, whoever it may be. I'm hoping we get to see Syed Manesh a lot more because, let's face it, hasn't been the best start to his Hull City career. We need to see him on the pitch, but he has got a lot of options. But like you stated earlier, there's not a lot of games left, and he's just trying to find out his best team, which can ultimately result in performances like that against West Brom, which for us fans can be pretty sticky and a bit tedious and a bit of a damp squid.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these, isn't it? Because, I mean, like, obviously, even these players that are coming back from injury, they've got to get their match sharpness back. So, we threw all these attackers on in the second half, expecting them to change the game, and they've not played a game of football in ages. So, realistically, were they going to make a difference? Probably not. But we've made so many signings, like, sort of in midfield, and so many good performers, which sounds weird, because I think, personally, midfield's been our weakest point in the season, in terms, not in terms of performances, but in terms of the way that there's been no link between the back three and the front two. We can't seem to get the ball through the midfield quick enough. But, Smallwood's been very good this season, probably player of the season contender. Regan Slater's come in and looked very comfortable in midfield. You've got Greg Docherty, who we know is a fantastic midfielder. George Honeyman should really be in the middle. So then it's, who do you play in the middle? Because, you've got plenty of options there. And then when it comes to when you actually find and establish a midfield, who's playing in the wing-back position, because I personally think that Keane Lewis-Potter's better out wide. But then you've got Brandon Fleming playing there, playing brilliantly. So, it's weird because we're actually playing quite poorly, but we've got players that are playing well. So it's hard to put your finger on what's actually going wrong. It's just, putting the ball in the back of the net and creating chances. Because before the Peterborough game, I think I said on an episode, we'd had something like 7 shots on target in a month. So, that's quite poor. For the second level of English football, you need to be having more shots on target than that. Per month, or else you are asking for trouble. And I think realistically we're safe. I'm not looking at the bottom 3 places thinking we're going to get dragged into that. I mean, it's a massive ask for those teams to below us to win a lot of games consecutively. I know Cardiff have kind of done that at the minute, but they're not in the bottom three, so it's not really an issue to us. But it's like you say, it's just a tough watch, and you can understand the frustration, but you can also understand it from Arveladze's point of view, and it's a weird situation, and I don't think one that a lot of fans have experienced at City in recent years, especially that. We're kind of just in limbo, aren't we? We're just, we could end the season now and it wouldn't really be any different, but we're just kind of, every game's a friendly, isn't it, from now to the end of the season, but you want to see some drive and desire and something to build on next season.
Yeah, it's a real cliche, isn't it? Because if you'd snap someone's hand off for this position, probably at the beginning of the season, a takeover is probably safe. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Obviously, there's still a lot of football to be played. But when it does get to these stages and you're a bit drab, and people do get on the backs. I think for the midfield, people bang on about hopefully going big for attackers, but like you said, I think we've got an abundance of midfielders. But let's be having it right. You've got Monkey, Andy Cannon, who've been injured, haven't been selected. They've kind of not hit the heights. You've got Tom Huddleston, who at first it was absolutely brilliant, but then you look realistically, is he probably past it? I can't imagine him staying at City at the end of this season, so that'll free up a lot on the wage bill. You're going to have Doherty still, Honeyman hopefully, and we want a new deal for him. But for me, I'd love us to see a sign of quality midfielder, someone who's been there, done that, who might not be in his prime because that's the position we're in, but a bit of money given towards a team, and you can sign players who have got a bit of experience, and you look at I don't even know who to compare it to. You look at a Joe Allen at Stoke or something, and I know he doesn't set the heights, and I'm not saying he's the best player in the world, but someone who's got a bit more of experience at the minute, because I think that's what we're lacking. We've got a lot of youngsters, and we just need a leader in that middle of the park to say to Greaves, Bernard, McLaughlin, let's play it this way, let's play in our triangles, let's calm down, let's not be so direct and hoofing it up top. To get the runners, KLP, Longman, you don't realise probably what a good an old-fashioned centre midfielder can do. For me, that's where I think City need to strengthen as much as they do up top.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like, we could really, really do with sort of a deep line playmaker, Tom Huddleston. But
you can tell me, and you play Football Manager.
Yeah, I'll get all the terms out for you.
A bit of an anchor or a Tresco star,
defensive midfielder. But we need a sort of a hybrid of Richie Smallwood and Tom Huddleston that is more than comfortable of playing, breaking up the play.
Yeah.
But can also string a couple of can dictate the tempo of the game from the middle and spray a couple of long diags. It's because I think, as much as I love Smallwood and how good he's been and how crucial he is to the team at the minute, he only really makes like a 3-yard pass, and then that's why we end up getting it back to defenders. He's not going to play these long searching balls in behind for the likes of Keane Lewis Potter to run onto. But then if you drop Smallwood, you haven't got the necessary bite in middle, and we get absolutely overrun because we haven't got the metal to compete. So it's really frustrating. So yeah, realistically, a midfielder who can help us control games properly and sort of dictate the tempo of how we're playing, help us keep the ball comfortably. I think personally the club are going to look at trying to phase Tom Eaves out of Hull City, because I just don't think realistically he's in favour by the looks of it and I don't think he has been for a while, which is harsh because, like we say, he's been one of our best players since the turn of the year, and he probably deserves another year. But I think we'll wait and see. I think they're going to try and look at shifting him out. I mean, Baz mentioned it on the last episode that it sounds like they want to reward the players who have got us to this position. So the ones who got us up last season, who have helped establish us this season, they'll probably offer another year and say, thanks for what you've done. We'll let you have another year, but if you want to find somewhere else in summer, feel free to do so. So the offer will probably be there for him. But, if a League One club comes in and says, we want to play you every week, he'll probably go there, won't he? Yeah. So,
especially 28, 29 now, isn't he?
He's coming up to his 30s, isn't he? So he needs security now, doesn't he? And probably get back to scoring ways, which I wouldn't begrudge him of, because I'd like to see him go somewhere and score goals again. Because I've spoke to a Gillingham fan, Gills in the Blood, he's called on Twitter. He, like Tom Eaves, is heralded as an absolute legend amongst Gillingham fans. He scored so many goals for them, and it's like he says he's mystified as to why he's been so hated amongst the City fan base for so long, because all they remember of him is being brilliant. But it's like I said, they played him in a front two, which we don't do. And then as soon as we started playing him in a front two, we saw the best out of him, and then he got injured and he's out the team again. So he's going to be a casualty, I think, of the changing era and the unlucky timing of an injury. We'll probably see him go. But like you say, realistically, if you're going to spend serious money, it would need to be in the midfield area to go alongside Honeyman and an actual goal scorer. Because I mean, we're sat here saying, we don't score enough goals, and it's the obvious problem that we've had this season. Our goal difference is actually quite good. So you say we've got a very, very young and inexperienced back three, well, back five now if you include Fleming in the wing back position as well. In terms of playing at championship level, we've not conceded that many goals. We don't tend to get battered. I don't think we've conceded more than 3 this season, have we? If we actually had a striker who was on, say, 10 plus goals, we'd probably be safely in mid-table. That's all we've missed is a striker who can put the ball in the back of the net. And I think we've been very unlucky with injuries and when we've hit runs of form, missing key players kind of thing. So maybe we're being a bit harsh and we might actually have a decent season next season. Got to have that optimism, haven't you?
You have. I really hope so. I mean, looking at that's what you said. We have scored goals, but we haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer as such. I mean, KLP's on 9. You've got Honeyman on 5, Longman 4, Eves and Wilkes on 3, and Tyler Smith and Josh McGuinness on 2 still, with Smallwood, Force and Cannon on 1. That's the thing. You haven't got just out, I mean, you look at Mitrovic, so he should be the money he's on and the experience he's got. I mean, what's he on already? 30, something like that. And like you said,
he scored more goals than our club.
Exactly. So that's the realisation. We can score goals. We're just missing probably an out-and-out goal scorer. But like I said, we will leave that to Tan Kesler, Asian Ilikai and Shota Arveladze, as obviously we have just spoke about Hull City going down 2-0 at home to Steve Bruce's Baggies. Carlon Grant with a goal in the 17th minute and a penalty in the 48th. We move on. This Saturday, we travel to the West Midlands. We go to St Andrews to take on Birmingham City. A massive, massive game, mate. I mean, we mentioned a bit of dead rubber and all stuff like that, but you look at the table, if City beat Birmingham, the Blues on Saturday, we're going to go above them. We've got a better goal difference. They're 3 points above us, but it's going to be a really interesting time because I don't know if you've seen some of the protests that might be happening at St Andrews on Saturday.
Yeah, I shared it.
But I think Hans Summers or one at Pulse and Cocktail might be having a really big sale in the West Midlands this weekend.
I think a Birmingham fan told me that it was it's not true. Apparently, an Aston Villa fan made it and shared it made a fake Birmingham fan page and shared it about, hoping that the Birmingham fans would do it and make themselves look silly. So I think maybe that might be a bit of interclub banter that that actually made the rounds.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, massive game. Both played 36. Obviously, the Tigers are on 37 points. Birmingham are on 40, but we've got a better goal difference. We're on -11. They're on 14. So a win would take the Tigers possibly up to 18th position. And I think with 10 games, 8 to 10 games for all teams now to go, you probably look at City and think, yeah, you're comfortable. Let's be realistic, hopefully, but probably a win or two, you're probably cementing your place now. And that's what I think we need to do, because if we can string a good run together, end the season on a high, and it'll give that security for Shota, maybe a bit more money from Asian, and probably give teams and players looking at us going, you know what, yeah, they've come into the back end of this year, they've signed, they're going to go big, and it might give a bit more optimism for players to maybe want to come play for us if you finish a little bit higher. I know money's always an option with football players, but you're just hoping now we can finish a bit positive, get the fans back, get a bit more season tickets sold for next year, and a big win at St Andrews on Saturday would be absolutely huge.
Oh yeah, it would be. I mean, it's like you say, fans at the minute want to see what next season could have in store, and a game against Birmingham could be a perfect way to do that. And considering we're better away from home this season, it is the perfect venue to do. I think we've actually got quite a decent record at St Andrews, haven't we? So it could be a decent day for us. And like you say, there's a few players I think need to show some responsibility in terms of keeping their performance levels consistent. Trying to say to the owner, look, I want to be in the starting 11 next season, because I think every single player in that squad should be thinking my position might be up for grabs here. And the likes of, I mean, you look at Sean McLaughlin and Brandon Fleming, who have come in and just sort of ironed out and made that place their own. That's the kind of commitment you want to see from every single player at the minute, and we're not. We're only seeing, our star performers are having, a couple of iffy games, and now every now and again. But yeah, it's I do think that 2 wins will realistically keep us in the division. You know, you're looking at maybe 6, 7, 8 points to really hammer down the championship position next season, because the bottom 3, I'll just leave them with too much to do. But you know, we don't want to just be doing that realistically, because I think in the position that we're in, we should really be thinking, why can't we put a couple of, you know, a win streak together now to the end of the season? Because bringing that feel good factor in, it, like you say, is going to have a huge play in luring players to Hull City, because as much as we hate to admit it, we're not a very desirable club to play for. So, you know, Adjin's influence himself, he's got quite a job on his hands to, you know, sit down with players and really convince them to buy into the plan he's got for the club going forward. So if we're going to try and lure a higher standard of footballer here, then you've got to match that by showing ambition on the pitch. So it's all well and good sitting in the, you know, meeting a player and saying, you know, you're going to join us next season, we're going to try and push for the top 6. And then that player goes, I might be interested actually, watches the Birmingham game, watches us sit back for 90 minutes and lose 1-0. He's going to be thinking, that doesn't look like a team that wants to play for the top 6. Do you know what I mean? You've got to go hand in hand with your ambition has to be shown. And then when you show that ambition on the pitch and in the transfer market, the fans also show the same ambition, and it all comes hand in hand. So, you know, if you're going to start putting a run together now is the perfect time to do it. And we should really be looking at doing it. Especially since there's so many fans sort of, you know, criticising the way that we were promised attacking football and not seeing it. Maybe you should turn around and just go, do you know what? Yeah, we're realistically safe. Let's just go for it every game and see what this team's got.
And that's the thing. I think if you're coming up against the Birmingham City side, you know, they come off a really good victory away, beating Bristol City at Ashton Gate 2-1 at the weekend. For me, I think the key point is probably stopping their attacking threat. They've got Chong, who's on loan from Man U, and the Dutch kid. He bagged a goal at weekend. Lyle Taylor, who's been there and done it for so many teams in the Championship, you know, really good second-tier striker. Gary Gardner, the captain in the middle of the park. They play 5-3-2, so they'll play very similar to City, obviously managed by Lee Bowyer, who's a very old-style manager as well. They're probably going to play direct. It's probably going to be 2 teams who, if they go for it, it could be a really entertaining game. But if both try and hold back, and it's a bit like kick tennis, bombing it up and down like a rugby union match, it could be a very boring watch. I think for the Tigers, like we've mentioned, like we have done at Bournemouth away, go for it. You've got to go for it in these games. You've got to put attack in front on. You've got to have a few shots. Even if it doesn't go in, get a shot on target, build that confidence, because you can sneak a few early goals against this Birmingham side. I mean, you look at the games, they've drew to Stoke, they beat Reading, but they've been beaten comfortably on numerous occasions at St Andrews as well. And like you mentioned, they're a team that, like us a few months ago, not happy with the ownership, wanting a change. And we've seen that so many times at the MKM. A few early goals from the away side, and it turns pretty sour. So I'm just hoping we can come out, fire from the races early doors, and you never know what can happen. We're very chalk and cheese out with this Hull City side. And like you mentioned there, for players who maybe might be interested in coming at the back end of this year for next season, if we can finish on a real positive, grind out some away victories, entertain at home, it can really change the foreseeable future and probably the 2022-2023 season, the outcomes of it, really.
Yeah, because I always like us to see. I mean, even with how, because realistically, with us being so clear of the bottom 3 at the moment, which, you know, a couple, because you look back at our win streaks, we tend to win like 3 or 4 in a row, and then we'll lose like 4 or 5 in a row, and then that's sort of been our rhythm this season. So we tend to play in patches, which I think needs to be cut out. We need to start being able to control games, and like you say, if we're not gonna win the game, at least come out of a game looking like we've actually tried to win it. You know, entertain the fans, give them something to say. Do you know what? At the end of the game, we played well there. We were unlucky, rather than, God, that was an hard watch. You know, that's the mentality that the fan base wants to get out of now, because we've had it for so long of being sick watching City. Sometimes we would just want to enjoy watching us again. So, realistically, I think he's got enough freedom to just go into every game and just say, you know, express yourselves. You've got freedom to go and do whatever you want to do. Go at them. You've got no pressure, no fear. You've got my full backing. The fans will love it, because, you know, realistically, all the fans want to see is 100% every game, don't they? You don't mind losing if you can say that every single player on that pitch gave their all. If they've lost because of quality or because of a bit of bad luck, you know, fair play. But you want to see 100% effort, and every now and again, you know, cut out a couple of individual errors. I think Greaves, especially, he's had quite a learning curve this season. I think he gave a silly penalty away against Blackpool as well, didn't he? Which gave the game away. And players like this are still learning. We're forgetting that we've got a very young team that are going through the trials and tribulations of the Championship. So maybe take that pressure off them and just say, look, realistically, you're probably safe. Go out there, enjoy yourself, play well, enjoy. Let the fans enjoy themselves. Go over and see them at the end of the game. Get that togetherness back. Then if the season finishes, you're looking forward to the start of next season, which is the main thing that we need to do, is we need to be starting next season with optimism, because that's been so long since we've been able to do that. I mean, maybe realistically at the beginning of the League One season, a few of us thought we should be going straight back up, but I mean, there was me who got caught in the whirlpool of negativity. I thought we might do a back-to-back relegation. I thought, because how bad we were in the Championship, I thought had to get out that losing mentality. So to start a season with optimism, I think that is just what everybody's missing. And like you say, to go to a place like St Andrews, a team in a similar situation to us, or what we was in, similar to us in the table. You can go at them, and I think that's just what the fans want to see. From now to the end of the season, just take every game as a free hit and just go at it and show Adjun what you can do.
How would you line up? I mean, obviously, we saw the team last time. It was unchanged. Would you maybe think Bernard playing as a wing-back for Slater? Would you mix it up in the middle? Marcus Force seems like he should be coming back, maybe on the interchange bench. Do you start Syed and Manesh? If you were Shota Arveladze, who were you hoping to see at Birmingham on Saturday? It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, I do think we need to bring a few changes, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, and I wouldn't be surprised if we changed 5 or 6. That's the way we're going at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, isn't it? Because you don't know what system Shota's wanting to use. I mean, it's looking like he prefers the 4-3-3. But if he plays the 3 at the back, he plays sort of a system that doesn't really suit the squad. We're a bit too wide with it. Is Ryan Longman fit? He is, isn't he? Because personally, I'd like to see us go back to the 3-5-2 that saw us win them
with
games.
KLP and Longman as the wing backs.
KLP, Longman on wing backs. Force and Eves up top together.
Yeah.
With any combination in the midfield, really. You could have, Honeyman in the number 10 with Smallwood and Doherty, or Smallwood, Slater, Doherty, combos. It all works, and then the back 3 is a tough one, because I think Sean McLaughlin is the only player, really, that should be nailed on to start every game, because he's sort of been faultless at the minute. But Jacob Greaves, with him being left-footed on the left side, makes sense. And then either Bernard or Alfie Jones. I wouldn't mind seeing Alfie Jones in the middle again, because I think he's better there. But then who do you drop for him? So it's one of them things. I think Shota prefers Alfie Jones from the looks of it, though. I think he's benched Bernard, and he for the last few, so he might start Jones or might fancy a change and put Bernard in. But these are trivial changes that don't really make a difference, because they're just as good as each other. But as long as we get that sort of security in the middle again, and get Honeyman back to his best, and in an area where he can be creative and a real problem stretching defenses, and then get Tom Eves back up top where he can hold the ball up and really create issues for the defense, then the rest of it sort of just fits in place. It doesn't matter who you play. Like, you can put Fleming out wide and KLP alongside him. These are all the freedom of the depth of the squad that we've got at the minute, which is quite good, but we're just not seeing the best of them. And I don't know if he's going to play that way. I'd like to see him do. I think personally he's going to go back to a back 4 with us losing so convincingly. It's one of them things, in it. I think he's always looking for an excuse to go back. If they win with the 3 at the back, he'll keep it, because he has to, kind of thing. But if we lose, it's like, I'm going to have to go back to this one then. Yeah. And then he might play Bernard as the right back. So, but yeah, that'd be my team. I'd have KLP, Longman wing backs, Honeyman,
I would.
Doherty, Smallwood midfield, Eves and Force up top with the usual back 3.
Yeah. Not a bad situation to be in, mate, is it, when you can change your formation and your system and stuff? Let's just hope we can cement one. I'm going to go, let's be positive, 2-1 City, Eves and Honeyman. What about you?
Okay. I'm going to say 1-1 draw. I think we'll be 1-0 up, and I think they'll peg us back towards the end, and it'll be frustrating. With a Marcus Force goal.
Oh, Let's hope. Let's hope we even pick up a point, mate, because I think that'll be positive. Or just let's get there, get back on the, not losing, get this inconsistency out of us, and like we said, finish this season on a high after a really good transition period. We've got to be realistic. You'd have snapped someone's hand off, your new owner, new manager this time last year. Everyone was calling for it, and hopefully safe in the Championship.
Yeah.
So
and that's like what it's perspective, isn't it? Because you've got
to be realistic.
And we take 21st place. And we're 19th, so we're actually better than what we expect. I know we've had an outside hand, like we say, with the deductions and stuff, but realistically, we're staying up. So everything that we're
take it where you can get it in this division, buddy.
Yeah, probably a bit unnecessary complaining, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. But no, it's been great to speak to you again. And obviously, you've been, before Ark even came on the podcast, you've been in collaboration with S66 Sportswear about the shirts. There's been a few people asking about when it's been delivered. Have you got an update? What did you want to tell us today about everything that's going on with them before we wrap up?
Yeah, so obviously, with them being because the way that these shirts were made, it was we didn't have the outlay to buy loads of shirts, keep them stocked, and then instantly, distribute them to everybody. Yeah. Sorry. So what we had to do is we had to work off a pre-order basis. So, we'd get a certain number of orders, then they would get processed to be delivered. And then, the next set of orders would become a next order kind of thing. And they'd wait for a certain number to do it again. But what's happened is they've chosen to combine the first two sets together and send them all at the same time. So obviously the people who first ordered have been waiting a little bit longer, but the second lot it'll be just on time. So it should be with you by the end of next week is what I've been told. The 99% sure. They did send us a teaser picture, which I posted out on the social media account. It looks good. They said that it's passed the quality check. So the shirt is definitely good quality. So obviously everybody should be. I'm looking forward to wearing it myself. I'm dying to get one. Every time I hear the post, the letterbox go, I'm hoping it's one of mine. But so they should be with us by the end of next week. Obviously, if everybody likes these shirts and would like us to do something else to sort of contribute to charity that way as well, then we have got a few designs that we have been looking at for other things, and we will probably we'll do polls and see what everybody wants kind of thing, because we don't want to release something you don't want. But we'll keep you informed in that, keep you in the loop. And like we say, with £7.50 of every shirt sale going straight to charity, you know what you're doing. It's you're realistically spending £20 on a shirt and then donating to charity on top of it. Yeah. We're coming up to, I think, £200 raised for Andy's Man Club, providing safe spaces, places where men could realistically go and chat about the mental health, because we all know we're not very likely to turn around and say to someone that was struggling, but these places can help you do that. So to be able to contribute to them in that sense is brilliant, and thanks to S66 for letting us do that. Because they could easily have wanted that £7.50 for themselves, but they've allowed us to take it to charity. So thanks to them for doing that, and thanks to everyone who's bought one. And like you say, the link to buy one is in our link tree every time. So if you didn't know that we'd released it, somehow missed it, and want one yourself, or just want to check it out, go on the link tree and find it. But like I say, they should be with us all by the end of next week. So hopefully I'll be wearing mine on the next episode. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely brilliant calls. And some of the concepts that we've seen, guys, will hopefully, if they become popular, we'll show you some, but they're absolutely beautiful. Especially I've got one that I've got my eye on, which But thank you so much to everyone who listens. Obviously, subscribe to our newsletter. Check out our sponsors, Candy King and 6 Yards Out. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow me and everybody who's involved. Let's spread the word of this podcast, and hopefully we can finish 2022 in the same manner as Hull City on the pitch. We will see you at Saturday at St Andrews. I've been Joe with Anne. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been the To Hull and Back podcast. Up the Tigers. See you soon, Anne.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.